Here's a great Friday story because it's hopeful. There are insects, some snakes and some lizards, that can actually regrow body parts like their tails. In fact, those of us who grew up here in South Florida, we're very familiar with this because we're surrounded by reptiles anywhere you go here in South Florida, especially around the Everglades, some really big reptiles. Now, imagine if scientists could single out the very proteins or the DNA particles that allows that to happen in these reptiles and somehow transfer it to human victims who've lost limbs through avulsions, for example. See, that's exactly what's happening right now at Harvard. It may be a breakthrough. NRS correspondent Michele Greenstein has this story.
We all know that some animals are capable of regenerating parts of their own bodies. Sharks replace lost teeth. Salamanders and spiders can regrow their legs. Geckos replace their tails, and jellyfish can go as far as regenerating their bodies after being cut in half. But now it looks like humans will be able to do the same. This is thanks to researchers at Harvard University who were doing tests on 3-banded panther worms and along the way discovered some DNA switches that appear to control genes for whole body generation. These researchers, led by Professor Mansi Srivastava, found a piece of DNA that activates a master control gene called early growth response, or EGR. If you don't have EGR, nothing happens, says Srivastava. The animals just can't regenerate. This is because the early growth response gene is what controls a number of other body processes by deciding which genes are turned on and off. Here's how Andrew Girk, a postdoctoral fellow working in Srivastava's lab, explained their findings. What we found is that this one master gene comes on and activates genes that are basically turning on during regeneration. Basically, what's going on is the non-coding regions are telling the coding regions to turn on or off. So a good way to think about it is as though they are switches. For this switching on or off process to work, the DNA in the worm's cells has to physically become more open. This means the genome isn't stagnant. Girk explains that one of the big findings in this paper is that the genome is very dynamic and really changes during regeneration as different parts are opening and closing. And Rick, researchers consider this type of worm that they used, the 3-banded panther worm, a really great lab rat. This is because of the way they're related to other animals, so findings about this worm allow scientists to make statements about evolution. But of course, the irony here, Rick, is that in order for us to discover how to preserve and regenerate our own bodies, we need to continue experimenting on other animals and cutting up theirs. Back to you.
I'm Rick Sanchez. You found us on YouTube, and that's awesome. But you know what? I'm also live every night at 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern on DirecTV and Dish and cable and satellite, the RT app, and Pluto TV. I'll see you there.